live.
I like to just check on my phone.
I know.
Right. That's what I'm doing too.
I
Oh, I
always
see
like to
it.
do a little dance because for the folks who are listening on like Stitcher or podcast apps, this is when we Carrie pipes our music in.
Yeah.
So just like
Yeah.
I like to dance.
Okay. Lachelle and Sky, are you guys ready? Let's
We're
Yeah.
kick
ready.
it off. Welcome to people who are slowly tuning in. We're on a little later tonight. We're going to start being a little later so everybody can join us after work. But this is an episode of We've Got Issues Girl. We are a weekly podcast for women who are curious about politics. My name is Carrie.
And I'm Sky, and I'm happy to be back. I was on vacation last week, and we are so excited to have Lachelle Stroud, who is running for Franklin County Common Pleas Domestic Relations Division. Now, we've had someone on before who was running for the Court of Common Pleas, but didn't have like
Mhm.
a division. So
Yes.
tell us about yourself and, for the lawyer, for the folks of us who are not lawyers in the room,
Me.
what's the deal?
Well, good evening. Thank you both so very much for the opportunity to be here, as well as for creating We've Got Issues Girl. So I really appreciate it and appreciate how you all are spreading the message in a way to where it is understandable for all, because an informed electorate is really the goal for me specifically as a candidate. So my name is Lachelle Stroud. I am in Franklin County, Ohio, which Columbus is the major city here in Franklin County. So, like you said, I am running for the newly created seat in domestic relations and juvenile court. On the ballot, it just says domestic relations. So
Okay.
I know you've had people in other counties. We have a general division when it comes to the Court of Common Pleas, and then we break out domestic relations and juvenile court. And all that means is in our court, we handle the divorces and dissolutions, the child custody matters, and that could be for parents who were never married before. And then interested in designating who the custodian is in the time with each parent. We also handle abuse, neglect, dependency cases. So that
Mhm.
would be like the worst of the worst, what you see on television, where
Right.
the allegations are that children are being abused or neglected. And I actually handle those cases now as a magistrate
Okay.
Okay.
and determining what should happen. So, should the children be removed from their home and given to either children's services or a relative? And then what the parents need to do to get the child back in the home so that we can reunify the family.
Yeah.
We also handle delinquency cases, and those will be like criminal cases if the child were 18 years of age or older. And I preside over those cases now, determining, if the child is delinquent, that's what we call it under the law. And then if so, what should happen, like the orders. We call it a disposition in the law, but really some people call it a sentencing, determining what
Mm.
should happen with the children. And then we also have some great specialty and dedicated dockets in our court. So one of two magistrates that preside over our empowerment docket, and that's for youth who are the victims of human trafficking.
Oh my god.
And yes, so we have a dedicated docket for those youth, and we provide them the necessary resources and support to come out of that lifestyle if they choose to do so. It's a voluntary program. We
Sure.
also have a Compass dedicated docket, and that's for parents who have child support obligations to make sure, again, that they have resources and support to get them the assistance that they need. And then we have what we call recovery dockets, which are like drug courts.
Okay.
So we do all of those things. We do protection orders. So if people want a protection order from someone who's a juvenile or someone who's in their family, we handle those protection orders. So I am running for this newly created seat. We used to have 5 judges. And in a county like Franklin County, we needed more judges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in 2017, the legislature added 2 judges and they staggered them. So one went on the ballot in 2018, and now I'm running for the 7th seat in 2020. So just a little bit about myself. I am from Columbus, Ohio. I have wanted to be a lawyer since I was 5 years old.
Aw.
It is the absolute only thing that I ever wanted to do until I was in high school and I met a judge and expanded my goals to be a judge. So growing up, I was always the classroom lawyer. I was always speaking up for people who either didn't feel comfortable using their voice, or were afraid, or didn't understand how to use their voice. So I've always been passionate about justice and fairness for everyone. So I made that my goal. I went away to undergrad, came back home, went to the Ohio State University for law school.
Yeah.
And I have worked in domestic relations and juvenile court since the summer after my first year in 2000, where I
Wow.
clerked in this very court for a judge. So throughout my 17 years that I've been licensed, but 20 years in the legal community, I have served this court specifically as a legal intern. I have worked as a lawyer representing parents and children on both sides, domestic relations and juvenile court. I've been a guardian ad litem, which
Mhm.
guardian ad litems are attorneys or lay guardians who go out and do those independent investigations and really give the child a voice in the courtroom without the child enduring the trauma of coming
Mhm.
into the courtroom. And we speak up and make recommendations as to what's best for the child. And then 7 years ago, I was appointed to the bench to serve as a magistrate, which magistrates are appointed as opposed to elected like judges.
Okay.
So I've been on the bench as a magistrate for the past 7 years and now running for judge, this newly created seat.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
awesome. So I didn't know that this was a new I'm just I also have a law degree and I'm kind of nerdy when it comes to like how this all works. So the Franklin County only had 5 judges for the whole county?
Yes,
That's
for domestic
crazy.
relations and juvenile court. In
Oh,
general
okay. Okay.
division, we have
Okay.
17 judges in
Okay.
general. Probate, we have 1, and
Okay.
domestic relations and juvenile, we only had 5. So
So
now we
they're
have 6. This is
expanding okay.
Mhm.
So they're expanding domestic relations and juvenile, which is together.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
Mhm.
So when it comes to like the way courts are determined in each county, because it's very different in Lucas County,
Mhm.
there
Yeah.
it sounds like there are no like hard rules. Like so the legislature can just kind of determine what they want.
Yes. So
Wow.
our court administrator
Mhm.
wrote up a letter. So the judges collected stats from across the state, and we found out that we were one, if not the busiest court statewide as far as the
Oh yeah.
dockets that our judges have. And it was just too overwhelming for 5
Yeah.
judges to handle all of the domestic relations and juvenile cases.
Yeah.
So they wrote up a letter, had the support of the Ohio Supreme Court, the commissioners and others in the community, and presented it to the legislature, because the seats that we have are created based on the statute. So for the jurisdiction, and then that went to the legislature, and they approved 2 additional seats.
That's so
Cool.
interesting the way that that
Mhm.
works. Also, just because I'm a bit of a antagonizer and I like to challenge super rules, I'm not sure that that is the right way to do it when I mean that means that the whole legislature voted on your court in
Mhm.
Franklin County and so that means like legislators up here or in
Mhm.
rural areas of Ohio were voting on like what the big city of Columbus is doing on their court,
Yeah.
like I'm not sure that this is very interesting. I learned something new today. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, and it feels like you could really like your fate is hanging in the hands of all. I mean, let's be real. You don't have to comment on this, but the Ohio legislature is made up of some crazy
Yeah,
people.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
is
And and as
you
like, from what I've heard, they're, like, anti-Columbus because that's, like, the big city
mhm.
and urban.
The 3 C's, right? They hate the
Yeah,
3 C's.
yeah. That's so interesting. Oh, that's so interesting. So, tell us more about your experience, because it sounds like you're a perfect fit for this,
Oh my god, yeah.
role 'cause you've
It's
practiced
like you've
different
literally
courts.
been training for this job your whole career.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
I would like to think so,
tell us
yes.
more about, like, what your practice has been like.
So I wanted to be a litigator. I knew that in law school, again, because I've always been comfortable using my voice and speaking
Mhm.
up for others. So I wanted to be in the courtroom. So coming out of law school, I went to the Attorney General's office, and I worked as an assistant attorney general for 3 years, where I was in the courtroom. So I've done hundreds of bench trials, jury
Oh, man.
trials, argued before the Court of Appeals, as well as the Ohio Supreme Court. And when I was doing that, I was working part time in the evening in juvenile court as a hearing officer in teen court, which is a diversion program, because I always knew that I would find my way back to this court. I've also been a staff attorney. For a judge. So 4 years I served a judge as a staff attorney, where that's the person who's behind the scenes
Mhm.
researching, writing, handling the pre-trials for the judge. And then I was at the point where, and I've also taught paralegal courses, so training paralegals on what it's like to be a paralegal. So I've taught in community colleges as an adjunct professor. And I was to the point after practicing for 10 years where I really wanted to get into domestic relations and juvenile court full time again.
Mm.
So I started my own law practice so that I could represent parents and children. So I represented parents and children in both Franklin County and Licking County,
Okay.
both on the domestic relations side and juvenile court, serving as attorney as well as guardian ad litem. And then I did that for 3 years, and then I accepted the appointment to be magistrate. So for the past 7 years, I've been on the bench in juvenile court, which we have a very heavy caseload. We actually just added 2 additional magistrates
Wow.
because of the caseload that we have as magistrates. So to be a magistrate, it's in Franklin County in our court, it's a lifetime appointment,
Oh,
Oh.
cool.
because we serve at the pleasure of all of the judges.
Mhm.
And so you apply for a job, go through an interview process. So a lot of the magistrates are actually retiring as a magistrate. And then
Oh.
3 years ago, I was promoted to be the lead magistrate. So I oversee all of the juvenile magistrates and our support staff. And so I really enjoy, I'm a decision maker at heart. My friends call me to make decisions. So it comes naturally to me to be a decision maker and sit on the bench. So when this new seat came available, I was like, everything in my career has led me to this very moment. And I
Yeah.
felt a sense of a moral responsibility
Sure.
to step up and to run and take the
Yeah.
risk to run for judge.
So
Yeah.
what's your race like? Do you have an opponent? Is it, like, super contentious?
Yes. So I do have an opponent. I'm the endorsed Democratic candidate for this seat,
Mhm.
and there's an endorsed Republican who's my opponent. And so I have committed since the very beginning. I will be myself, and that is a person who prides myself on being a person of integrity and a person of honesty. And that is the way that I've run my campaign the entire time. I started off saying that we were going to run an honest campaign, just to get all voters to hopefully stand proud with
Mm.
Stroud,
Oh,
knowing
I
that you
love
are
it.
voting. Thank you. To vote for a candidate who is credible because of my experience, who is compassionate, just based on the way that I handle all of my cases, who's committed to seeing this all the way through to the end. So I just want voters to be able to make an informed decision.
Mhm.
Everyone has a choice. I just want the choice to be based on honest information that's not misleading by any means. And then people be able to make a choice when it comes time to decide who they want to vote for this new seat.
Yeah.
Good for
Cool.
you. That's, like,
So
super exciting.
you have the perfect background for this, and you said this was like it was just like a door open. It was like this position was pretty
Yes.
much made for you. But on the political side, have you ever
Mhm.
been involved in politics before? Or ho was there an adjustment to get involved in politics? Or tell us about that side of it, because campaigning is hard.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. So I campaigned like in student government growing up
Mhm.
because I've always been a leader to where my parents raised me to be the, if not you, then who type of
Mhm.
person. And if you have that experience, then you step up when opportunities come available. So I've done student government my entire life. I even did it in college where I was twice elected to Chief Justice of our
Oh,
university 2 years in a row. In
go.
politics, I had been more the volunteer,
Mm.
working for a judge, volunteering on my judge's campaign, the campaigns of other judges that I really believed in, as far as them being people of honesty and integrity, because morals and my values are really important to me. So for me to be able to step out and be the candidate, especially in a county-wide race, it
Mhm.
was important to me to make sure that I ran an honest campaign. So it was a risk because I was comfortable being a magistrate
Mhm.
because I could
Yeah.
retire, as a magistrate. But again, the seat was created, and it was like, if not you, then who?
Yeah.
Sure.
So I went and screened, not knowing what the outcome would be, but I was asked to screen, and I went and screened. I'm so
Yeah.
glad that I did, because you never know what role politics will play in
Yeah.
politics.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
I'm committed to being an above board person. So I'm so grateful that the opportunity presented itself, and that the Democratic Party endorsed me to be their candidate for this seat.
Oh,
Right.
that's so cool. So
Yeah.
what kind of I mean, obviously, we've talked about this a lot on the show, but
Mhm.
campaigning during COVID has been a bit of a challenge. It's been a weird summer. It's like we're used to knocking on doors, like, every day, every weekend
Yes.
at least, and it's
Mhm.
been bizarre. So what's the
Very.
biggest challenge that you've been facing on this strange world of campaign trailing?
The biggest challenge would probably be the financial
Oh,
challenge.
yeah.
Because again, I just wanted to be sensitive, not knowing if people had, lost their jobs, if overnight things had changed for them. So I never want to be offensive,
Mhm.
and ask people for something. As judicial candidates, we cannot directly solicit when it comes to the campaign contributions, but
Yeah.
obviously we have a group of volunteers and a staff that does that. But I just told them, let's pause for a minute
Mhm.
and be sensitive to other people. And we really didn't know if that would put us behind, but it
Mhm.
was something again that I was committed to do, just to being sensitive during this time period
Yeah.
of where other people were in their lives, and making sure that we just reached out to people, not to ask for any contributions or ask them to even volunteer, but to call to see how people were doing.
Yeah.
And so we did a
Yeah.
lot of that in March and April, just checking in
Yeah.
on people. But I'm so glad that I started early. I
Mhm.
really started campaigning back November of last year as
Oh,
soon as I got
wow.
the word. And people were like, oh, you can just wait until the spring and go out. But like in December, every single night after work, I was at like 2 or 3 events and
Mhm.
going out, and I was able to meet so many people. So once March came, I was like, okay, everything happens for a reason. So
Yep.
I'm so glad that we just hit the ground running in the very
Yeah.
beginning, because this is not the campaign that we had planned for. We had a
Sure.
lot of in-person events planned, just like you said, going door to door, canvassing, and now we have to be sensitive, to the health and safety of others as well as our own. I'm a breast cancer survivor.
Oh, wow.
Um, and so in the beginning, I was, on the list of people as well as my parents, that
Mhm.
really had to be cognizant of the fact that we're in this pandemic, and people really didn't know, initially how it could be contracted.
Mhm.
So just being aware of those types of things, and again, being sensitive to
Yeah.
everyone and where everyone is. So it's been challenging. I'm
Yes.
going to be honest
Yeah.
with you, but we're still committed to fighting all the way through to the end.
Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
excited for you.
But even just hearing you talk about being sensitive to people's situations
Mhm.
currently, I imagine that's how you are going to be on the bench,
Mhm.
when
Yeah.
are trying to make fair and non-biased decisions, because that's what
Mhm.
judicial candidacy is all about.
Yes.
You kind of alluded to raising money is hard for judicial candidates in Ohio because we have this. Sky. I don't even know if you um know all about this, but
Nope.
so the judicial canons kind of govern
Mhm.
how judges are supposed to act, but also how they campaign as well, since
Yes.
Ohio is a state that does elect our judges. And
Mhm.
so the judicial canons, you don't have to weigh in on this. I
Mhm.
personally think they're rather restrictive in how you can raise money and when you can raise money, but also what you can say on the campaign trail because
Mhm.
you're not like a normal Toledo City Council candidate or a normal
Yes.
candidate that can be like, I promise to patch all your potholes. Like you can't do
Yeah.
that. So that's
Mm.
another thing that I think has that been hard for you too to kind of w- create your message on the campaign trail?
So yes and no. So I've been abiding by those same judicial canons for 7 years since I'm
Oh
a
yeah.
Mhm.
magistrate.
Yeah.
So we have the same ethics as judicial officers. So I'm used to it, but at the same time, the voters aren't. So
Mhm.
people
Yeah.
want to ask you questions, like your position on major issues, because that's what they're used to asking of politicians.
Yeah.
So it's
Yep.
kind of like sometimes I feel like I have one foot in the door and one foot out,
Yeah.
because you are running a political campaign. So you
Mhm.
are, a politician where you're out campaigning, where you have to raise funds. But yes, you have these restrictions to where you can only share about certain things, and you cannot share about your position on major issues, and you cannot directly solicit for campaign contributions with limited exceptions, like your family members,
Mhm.
and then depending on the number of people who are in the audience. So it's totally different running the campaign. I'm
Interesting.
used to the canons as a judicial officer, but then being out on the campaign trail, because I like to respond when people have questions. I want to
Right?
answer the questions, and sometimes it's like where people are wondering if you're trying to dodge a question. I'm a straightforward kind of person.
Right.
But not being able to answer certain questions about your views. And so I just try to explain to people, because
Well,
you never know what might come before me as far as a court case. And so I
yeah.
Yeah.
don't want to speak on any major issues, and then the case come and I have to recuse myself, for someone say she spoke out against this or
Sure.
spoke in favor of something when she was on the campaign trail. So I just try to explain it that way so people understand that I'm trying to maintain my impartiality, so that I'm open to
Yeah.
all arguments, and open to applying the law in a manner that is fair and just for all, for when cases come in front of me in the future.
Yeah.
So, can you talk about the work that you have previously done while you're answering questions? So, like, you can get specific in that way, I guess. I
So
don't
I
know.
can talk about things that I've done, like the empowerment court, for
Right.
instance, and say that, I've presided over cases for juveniles who are victims of human trafficking since 2015. I've been
Yeah.
presiding over this docket, and share the things that we do, like us sitting on the bench. If a youth successfully completes our program, we're able to dismiss, seal, and expunge that case that
Mhm.
led them there, as well as their entire juvenile record. That we give, we have drives to where we give out just basic necessities. So if some of our youth have children, we give them diapers and formula, bottles, just meeting their basic needs so that they don't have to revert back to that lifestyle to have their basic
Wow.
needs met. And that oftentimes they tell us we're the first adult that they've come into contact with who is given to them freely without expecting anything in return. So
Wow.
those types of things we can share about without getting into specifics about the
Yeah.
cases.
Well,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
seems pretty heavy too. Like, that's and your whole career has been spent doing that kind of work. What do you
Yeah.
do to, like, relax at the end of the day or, like, self-care? How do you do
Yes.
that?
So we have my husband and I have two sons, 6 and 10 years old.
Ooh.
So they keep us busy.
Yeah.
But that's a part of my self care, just making sure that they're involved. It's difficult now, with the pandemic, as far
Mm.
as extracurriculars. So family time always rejuvenates me, whether it's with my parents, my extended family. Having that time really rejuvenates me. I enjoy spending time with my friends. A little retail therapy never hurt.
Oh my gosh. I tell you, I have missed TJ Maxx so much. It is
Right?
so hard.
I
I
know.
know. I'm like, I've not been shopping.
Yeah.
It's been so difficult.
Yeah.
Oof.
Massages, things like
Mhm.
that. That's how I get my self-care and re-energize myself. But I a lot of people, when they hear the type of work I do and the type of cases, they have that same response. But I have such a passion, and I really believe that I was created to do the work that I do. So when I walk away, I don't carry it with me,
Mm.
because I know when I was there, sitting on the bench, I know that I make the best decisions based on the information that I have. So that helps me to be able to leave it there and not carry it with me. I adopted the my child philosophy as my judicial philosophy. So every child who comes in front of me, I treat that child as if he or she is my own child, and I know
Oh,
that has a direct impact on the decisions that I make. So when I walk away, and I don't carry it home with
yeah.
me. That helps.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that That's good to hear. That
Yeah.
was a phenomenal answer. We were so have you two been watching the Amy Coney Barrett hearings at all?
I'm
I'm
not
So
trying not
watching
to.
them.
Yeah,
I
I'm
watched
trying not
some
to.
in the evening. Yeah, just
Yeah.
clips of it because I've been at the early vote center
Oh,
in
Oh,
yeah.
good.
Franklin County. We started early vote. Well, all of Ohio. We started early
Yeah.
voting last week, so I've been at the early vote center during the day,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and I know there's a time difference. So I have not
Yeah.
watched much of it. Number one, because I don't want people to ask me about it because I really can't give my opinion.
I
Yeah,
know. I
right?
know. I wasn't going to, but I didn't watch
Yeah.
it. I think what I was gonna say is that the fear is I mean, there's a from the Democrat side, there's a real fear that she's gonna roll back some of these major court cases that we rely on, like Roe v. Wade, and the gay marriage case, right? And so I've been watching it, and um, I mean, maybe she also can't really say how she's gonna rule either. I mean, obviously
But
she
Right.
doesn't
doesn't have
she
the
have,
Because
like,
she's
judicial
a
a
authority.
federal
history
judge.
of
Yeah,
making so
She's
she's a federal judge,
yeah,
she's a
but she's
federal judge,
only
so she's
been
bound by the canons too, you know.
yeah.
right. But she's only been in the federal court system for what, like 2 years, 3 years? Didn't Trump appoint her?
So
I
I
think
think I
so,
saw
yeah.
3 years that she's been a federal judge, which, yes, the president makes all of those appointments,
Okay.
and those are rare appointments, you know? So for someone within a matter of 4 years to possibly, be appointed to the federal bench and then, you know, the top court in the land, the United States Supreme Court. I have
Right.
read about that just in
Yeah,
reading about her
and the
background.
youngest. She'll be the
Yeah.
Mhm,
youngest ever, which
mhm.
is, I don't know, kind of
Oof.
terrifying, honestly,
So
because
terrifying.
some of the answers that she like, obviously, she can't say, like, "Yes, I will vote to overturn Roe v. Wade." She cannot say that, and I know that's what
Mhm.
everybody's, like, hoping she'll say, but she won't, she can't.
You can't.
But the answers that she's giving, I hope people understand that, like, she is sort of saying that by her answers, by
Yeah.
saying she takes the Constitution as it's originally written, which is crazy to me because it was originally written by a bunch of slave-owning white dudes, like,
Right?
I
Yeah.
can't believe that we're gonna, like, take this piece of paper for its word, like, come on, things have
Yeah.
changed since that.
Because that was definitely not written for all of us, which is why we have
No
Right,
all of the
kidding.
amendments that we have.
right, right,
Mhm,
so it's just like, I hope people recognize, like, yes, our Constitution is very important, but I personally think that it is an
There you
evolving
go.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I have my little pocket Constitution on my, bookshelf, but I think it's like an evolving, growing we can change it, like, we can change
mhm.
it,
We
we
have.
can add
We do.
amendments.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
have, yeah,
We
so
have.
we don't have to take it just, like, strictly as written, so maybe we need to do a follow-up, constitution law episode.
Yeah.
We did one, when coronavirus first started because we kept getting a bunch of questions about, like, what if Trump does this, and
Mm.
what if they force a vaccine on us? And so we had one of my con law professors come on and answer some of, like, the doomsday questions, which was
I
really fun. So
love it.
maybe we have her back and just talk
Yeah.
through, like
Talk us down.
yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
that's our, like, therapy after the election because 'cause we'll all just be so run ragged.
Yeah.
Oof.
Right. Like, now what? All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
Yeah.
here. Now
yeah,
what?
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
We've got
Empty
issues,
time.
girl.
We have so many issues. We have so many issues, and we haven't
Oh
even
my gosh.
touched the tip of the iceberg yet, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, she's terrifying, but I am, you know, happy that we have people like Kamala Harris in the Senate to just lay it on. And I
yeah,
heard Senator Feinstein went hard today, or maybe it was
Mm.
yesterday. Oof, so good.
yeah, 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 it's pretty incredible what is happening right now. It's just wild. It's just
And I
wild.
think that's what some people don't realize. Like, there's so much on the ballot. It's more
Mhm.
than just the names that you see on there. I don't think as
Yes,
many people recognize before, you know, like that the president had the ability to make all of these appointments for all of the judges, which are lifetime appointments in federal court.
Mhm.
I don't think people realize that, as well as, so I think people are really becoming even more engaged like
Mm.
never before, and that's why I like to go out and share about the judicial races and make sure that people really do vote all the way down their ballot, not
yeah,
just walk in, vote for the top of the ticket and walk out.
Yeah.
In Franklin County, we have about, on average, about a 30% drop off when
Ooh.
it comes to judicial races. But then, yet and still, you're more likely to come in front of a judge than you ever are for the president. Right.
Exactly.
And
Oh,
so
yeah.
when your
Exactly.
family, when your loved one or yourself has to go into a courtroom, whether it's for a traffic ticket or a divorce or a business dispute, an eviction, then that's when everyone is calling around. Right. And they're like, tell me about this judge. What is he or she like? Is she fair? And I'm like, now is the time to ask those questions.
Yeah.
In
Yep.
Franklin County, we have 12 judicial races on the ballot.
Oh my
Now
god.
is
Wow.
the time to find out about the judges,
Yeah.
as much as you can, and listen to them and hear, because this is the time to know who we are,
Yeah.
as people, as candidates, and so that you can make informed decisions voting from the top all the way down to the bottom of your ballot, because it's your local elections that really do make an impact on your day to
Yeah.
day lives.
No, you're
Totally.
absolutely right, and we say this every single episode too. And judicial candidates matter. I know. I mean, I hear from women all the time. It's like, well, I don't get in trouble, so I'm not in front of
Right.
a judge, and so I don't know
Hmm.
about judges. But judges, even on the local level, are making really important decisions for our communities. Like, for instance, Sky and I used to work at the abortion clinic here in Toledo, and it was a local county
Hmm.
common pleas judge that basically ruled in favor of keeping the clinic open. Like, that
Hmm.
is important stuff,
Right.
and I don't think people
Absolutely.
always realize. I mean,
Mm-mm.
it's not all about, like, traffic tickets and
Right.
Yeah.
DUIs and stuff. So
Hmm.
that's great if
Hmm.
you're, like, not getting into any trouble, but what happens if you do have to have a divorce, like,
Right.
Yeah.
unfortunately? Or I even talk to people about, like, what happens if your partner dies or your parents die, like, and it goes to their estate goes to probate. Like, that's a freaking nightmare. Like, the
Yeah.
probate court judges matter too,
Yeah.
So
Right, right. And your children, right? I mean, children are children.
yeah,
And now, being a child, sometimes juvenile behavior has at some point become criminalized. And
yeah,
so
Mhm.
your child could end up in juvenile court.
yeah,
No matter how great of a parent you are.
Yeah.
So, it's about understanding those types of things as well, because again, it's judges that are making all of these decisions.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I would hope that everybody would want a judge that is fair, that is
Yes.
kind, sincere, that sees every child as their own child and doesn't
Yeah.
just say, "Oh, he's a criminal. Oh, throw him in
Mhm,
jail."
mhm.
And so you've already said that that's the kind of magistrate that you've been, and so I imagine that will be the kind of judge you'll be. Actually, why don't you explain the difference between magistrate and judge too, just in case we have people listening that
I
don't know
didn't
that?
wanna ask, but that was my question.
No, I appreciate it. So magistrates are appointed by the judges, and judges are elected.
Okay.
So the judges, just like in Franklin County, when we had 5 judges before, now we have 6. Way too many cases for the judges to hear everything in our court, domestic relations and juvenile
Mhm.
court. So our judges appoint magistrates to serve. But you go through the process just like everyone else who's an employee of the court, go through the interview process, and then the judges sign off on an entry to appoint you. Which can be like a lifetime appointment in Franklin
Okay.
County Domestic Relations and Juvenile Court. And so then the decisions that I make as a magistrate are adopted by the judges. And
Okay.
then if an attorney or a party disagrees with a decision that I make, it's like another layer of appeal where they can
Mm,
object, go before the judge to see if the judge believes that I made any errors and wants to send the case back to me, or, adopt the decision that I made. So it's kind of like another layer of appeal, and the judges adopt our decisions.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like, remember when you got that, traffic ticket, that red light traffic ticket, and you appealed it and that you had to go before a judge? That was a magistrate.
Mhm.
Okay.
Sorry to bring up
This
some
is
terrible things
embarrassing.
happening apparently,
I
I
had a
relate.
great attorney though. That's that's the only
I
reason
wear
I'm
a
here
hat,
today,
well,
folks.
right?
No, no, no.
I love it. I love it. Yes. So we, as magistrates, we wear robes, we sit in a
Yeah.
courtroom and make decisions.
Yeah,
Cool.
Hmm.
So
yeah,
you've already I mean, you've been, training for this
yeah,
job for many years.
yeah,
Yes. Yes. I know what it's like to sit on a bench and make decision after decision that has a drastic impact.
Mhm.
I decide whether children will be committed to the Department of Youth Services or removed from their parents' custody and given to Children's Services custody or to relatives'
Oof.
custody. So I'm used to making those decisions on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did you have any doubts about screening for the Democratic Party endorsement? Like, were you worried that they wouldn't choose you? Because it would be crazy to not choose you because you seem like just a
Yeah.
shoe in. But also, like, we've talked to a number of women, me myself included, who have been
Mhm,
told, "No, wait your turn. It's not time for you yet. Let
mhm.
so and so run first, and then you can run." So, were you worried at all about getting the endorsement?
So to be 100% transparent with you, um, I did not think that I was going to get this endorsement. And it was not because I did not feel as if I was worthy or as if my experience made me to be the best person for the endorsement. Um, I had been asked to scream before, and I had screamed before. And
Oh.
some people in politics would say that it's not really about your experience. And so I was to the point where I wondered, did my experience matter? Did the fact that I felt like I was the perfect candidate for this newly created seat, did it really matter? And how much of a role would politics play?
Yeah.
And so when I was asked, I went and I give everything my all. So I showed up prepared, and I was pleasantly surprised by the outcome. But at the same time, it gave me
Yeah.
hope and knowing that my experience and that other candidates who are qualified that they are being seen and being heard and given opportunities to be able to run and to have the endorsement. So it really did give me hope to know that the screening committee really did value my experience and everything that I brought to the table,
Yeah.
because I am a whole person. So I
Yeah.
went in and I was able to share, my professional experience as well as my personal experience. I am a person who has overcome some tremendous obstacles without ever wavering in my commitment to public service. And I believe that they appreciated that. I had been on the bench as a magistrate about 5 months, and I was pregnant with our second son and diagnosed with breast cancer.
Oh
Oh my
my
gosh.
gosh.
And it came as a complete surprise, and I was 8 months pregnant, almost finished with the pregnancy, and then we find this out, and I discovered this lump through a self-examination, and, a series of appointments and screenings and different things, and found out that I, was in fact, did in fact have breast cancer and received that diagnosis, and on the bench every single day, where people are
Wow.
coming before me and me making these decisions, and I didn't tell anyone initially, because I didn't want people to have any pity on me. And I was just,
Mm.
getting the lay of the land myself. But I had that surgery, delivered our son, went through over a year of chemotherapy. I did up my treatments on Fridays so that I could be at work on Monday, never missed one day of work,
Oh
started
my
treatment
gosh.
in May of 2014, went all the way through the following June. I did my radiation right in the middle, 33 days. I would go to the hospital downtown, Grant Hospital, on my way to
Oh
work, was never late or missed a day of work. So I share that because a lot of people say, I'm a hard worker, I have strong work ethic, but I believe that is a testament to my work ethic to say, when I say I'm going to do something, I will see it through to the very end, and I do not take my commitment to public service lightly at all.
wow.
Wow. That's incredible. You have an incredible story.
Thank
Well, and
you.
I'm so glad you're on the other side of it. Man.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes, that
Whew.
Yeah.
was 6 years ago. Our son is 6 now.
Wow.
Mhm.
Who are some of your role models? Like, how did you become this person that you've
Mhm.
become?
So my grandmother was one of my role models. I believe she wanted to be a lawyer. I had people on both sides of my family, both grandparents, who always had this strong interest in the law, but never believed that, it wasn't that they didn't believe it. It really wasn't a reality for
Mhm.
them. And we used to sit and watch shows like Matlock,
Mhm.
and we just watch it over and over and over again. Um, and let's see, I have some judicial role models as well, like the notorious Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That is
Ooh.
one of my judicial role models. I always admired her for being the great dissenter,
Mhm.
and for not being afraid to use her voice and to speak out. And I loved how she always shared about, right now it could be the dissent, but in the future, the dissent can be the law. So
Mhm.
make sure that we speak up and speak out no matter what the majority is saying. Um, I have had a lot of great role models in my life, from family to professional role models that always told me no matter what challenges that you face in life, that you absolutely can overcome every single challenge. So I just pull on everyone, the good, the bad, and try to use all of those life experiences to help me to go further, faster. And then I always love to reach back in the community in hopes that I can inspire and empower others. I've been a first in a lot of different areas, the first person to do a lot of different things. Like I'm the first person to look like me to be a lead magistrate, lead
Mm.
juvenile magistrate. We never had a woman before, never had an African American, and certainly
Right.
not an African American woman. But for me, more important than being the first is not being the last.
Yeah.
So I like to make sure that I'm blazing a trail so that other people can come behind me and not have to go through some of the struggles that I have to get to where I am.
I love that. I read Kamala Harris's autobiography recently, and that's always something that her mother taught her is that you will be the first, but make sure you're not the last. And I
Mhm.
love that. I love that.
So
Love
So
badass.
give us some advice. Give us
Mhm,
what advice would you give to a young woman that wants to get involved in politics but maybe is
mhm,
intimidated because it is kind of an old boys club, or
mhm.
a young lawyer who wants to be a judge? What advice would you give?
Do it afraid. So don't be afraid of the challenges. Don't talk yourself out of it by thinking that perhaps it won't happen. Just do it because you never know what will happen when you step out there and do what you were created to do. I believe, strongly, like when I said, I was raised, if not you, then who? If not now, then when?
Yeah.
So don't put off for later because you never know if the same opportunities will come back. So, work hard and where you are because it really is preparing you for opportunities that will absolutely come. Everything happens with a purpose and on purpose. So just do it afraid. Don't back down. I think I read a stat before where it says that women generally have to be asked 3 times before they run for political office. And it's not because we don't think that we're capable. It's not because we don't think that we have the ability to do it. It's just that we wonder, will we be supported? Will
Right.
people get behind us and rally behind us and give us that encouragement? Because, like you said, there's just generally not a lot of women that are in these positions.
Yeah.
Um, so just know that in taking the risk and taking it, whether you're afraid or not, just step out there because there are a whole host of people that are there to encourage you and to cheer you on. And even if they're not, then do it afraid in spite of, and they will see. And I'm sure they'll come along sooner or later. It
Yeah.
is what it is.
I love
Yes.
it. I love it.
And
So
there's
how
this
can
community
oh, go
all
ahead.
over the place of women supporting other women. So
Yes.
Mhm.
I really
Yes.
love to hear that.
Empower women, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm all things women empowerment. I love it because we really do have to encourage each other. I really believe, we're better together, and that if everyone operates in excellence, no matter what your career path is. So as long as we're all operating in excellence and what our purpose is, I believe it will all work together for the greater good. So there really are other women that want to see other women succeed, and there to empower and make sure that we all lift as we climb.
I
Love it.
love that.
Love it.
So how can we follow you? How can we keep track of your race and what all the great things you're gonna do forevermore?
Yes, so I am on social media, Stroud for Judge on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Stroud for Judge. My name is Lachelle Stroud. I have a website, and it's Stroud, then the number 4judge.com. And that will share information about my race. We do updates all the time on our social media pages. Like when we get endorsements, I screened for countless union endorsements and
Yeah.
nonpartisan endorsements. And very proud to say that and each one that I screen for, they endorse my candidacy over my opponent. So we always make sure that we post those things on our social media. So you can follow our campaign like that as well.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Thank you
Awesome.
so much. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
thank you. 3 weeks left. Best of
Whew.
luck. It was so
Thank
great to meet
you.
you and learn about your court and your
Yes.
position. So
Yeah.
thank you for coming on and joining us. Thank you.
Thank
So
you. I
this has
appreciate
been
you both.
another episode of We've Got Issues Girl. We'll be back next Tuesday with a brand new episode. And in the meantime, check out our blog posts about how to get involved in this election. And we'll be posting about Lachelle's race too, and how you can follow her on social media and her website to give her a little donation too. Don't forget, because she
Oh,
can't
yeah.
ask for donation. So I'll ask
We'll
for her.
ask on your behalf.
Donate for her campaign. But again, this is We've Got Issues Girl. Thank you everybody for tuning in.
Thank
Kimberly
you.
said that she voted today, and she was impressed with the social distance in place. So that's cool.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
great.
And
They
a
make
lot
sure
of
you
lines
have
up
on
here.
mask.
Yeah,
Yes,
Good.
they make sure you have on mask. They make sure you social distance. You get a stylist when you go in.
good.
It's very efficient, very efficient. Every 90 minutes, 550 people vote. As long as we keep
Holy
a steady line.
shit.
They have
Yeah.
150 machines inside.
Mm.
So it's great. I've enjoyed being out there and being able
Yeah.
to see the voters in a safe
Oh, that's
manner.
so
So
awesome.
I
yes,
bet.
hoping that everyone stands proud with Stroud.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we will for
I love
sure.
it.
Thank you. All
Thank you
right.
so
Thank
much.
Have a
you.
good night,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.
Good night,
Bye.
everyone.